um, we meet you where you're at, right? I've had countless advice to build software. If I did, I don't think I'm talking to you right now because the financial burden of keeping software up and running wouldn't have made sense. So then what did I do? I trusted my gut. I trusted the fact that we don't need this right now.
Welcome to Mastering the Numbers. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Mallo with the Lead Edge Consulting Group, powered by Focal Point Business and Executive Coaching. Welcome back to Mastering the Numbers. Today, very fortunate to have Manny Larcher on the interview series. He is the co-founder of Stopwatch Creative and also the founder of Colab. Manny, thanks for taking part.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. To get us started, Manny, can you tell the audience a little bit about Stopwatch Creative and Colab?
Absolutely, yes. So Stopwatch Creative, we're currently in year seven. Um, we're a growth marketing and tech development agency. So working from creating the logo to working on social media and email marketing campaigns to building the website or building the mobile app or working with teams to do that. Um, so yeah, we've had the opportunity to work with professional athletes, series backed startups, and also large fortune companies over the period of years, and a few pretty incredible success stories. Seeing clients that we've worked with um, have their business acquired, and just a big learning lesson. So that's what Stopwatch is. We're more of a boutique agency, so it's primarily myself and my co-founder Lenny. Um, and we partner up with with other service providers if needed, from videographers, photographers, um, and Colab is really it came out of we did events called Collaborate and Elevate. Prior to the pandemic, we started doing those events in 2017, and there we probably did over 20 or so events consistently. And then pretty much when the pandemic happened, we really built a kind of no software, no complexity uh, marketing and advertising platform per se. So really, any business could go on there for as low as $5 a month, and we could provide them with education, connect them with pre-vetted customers, access to other growth expertise, really to just help them scale their business quicker.
Right. So, sorry, caught myself there. What inspired you to start your own business, let alone two businesses?
Yeah, no, great question. So, I just think that during, I'll date myself. I'm 35. When I was a freshman, we had to have a Facebook account and join a group to connect with other freshmen. And I just think at a young age, there was just a light bulb moment where I looked at my phone and said, hey, I want to work, like I want to be able to build these things that we're playing with. And it was just a lack of exposure to getting those type of opportunities. And then just there was just a light bulb day when I looked at the internet differently, and that I could learn from, videos on YouTube. I could learn how to build these things. And then I think that led down the rabbit hole. And then that led me to, meeting other founders, other investors, venture capitalists, and different people. So I think it was just really knowing that I could do something else, and the pain of not getting those opportunities, and just having to just trying to create them.
Yeah. Were you working in the corporate world before, or have you just from the very beginning you were starting your own?
Yeah, no, so I did have a couple years in unsecured debt consulting. And so, high level, just a lot of individuals. Essentially, we were talking to individuals who were going through a hardship, and they were looking for ways to get out of their unsecured debt. And it was our job to direct them to or just really share the options is how I looked at it. So, most cases, I mean, as bad as bankruptcy, it could be credit counseling, it could be, um, what's it called? Debt consolidation. So it's just kind of evaluating, giving people the options and letting people know the pros and cons of each. Um,
Yeah.
and essentially through doing that, that is when I would say a lot of those frustrations started to come where, when I started, there were 40 people in the room and I was pretty good at the job. And, I was in the top three um, in sales for about a year straight. But then that's when I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and thought I was at a ceiling and, what I need to develop more skills essentially to kind of get out of this, this hole that I'm in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just didn't see a lot of room for growth, I guess is another way to look at it. I felt like I was at a, I felt like from a sales training standpoint, I felt pretty well over the phone. Um, and then I knew that I understood unsecured debt very well now. So I was happy, that I learned those lessons, but then it really would just be the same thing over and over. So
Yeah.
at that age, and then the idea of managing other salespeople really wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I was just really looking at the options for growth that I had. And um it was again, it was just like maybe you should build a website. Maybe you
Yeah.
should learn how to do this. Maybe and that led down to this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of really strong business owners started off in the corporate world thinking, where do I even go from here? Is there anywhere to go from here? How about if I just go out on my own and do some things that I really, really care about? So I think a lot of people walk down that same path. So once you left the corporate world and you started Stopwatch Creative, you started Colab, what would have been some of the biggest challenges or struggles that you've had to overcome in that time?
Yeah, so funny story. I mean, so I was still in the corporate world. I was at that job for about 2 years, and then I launched yourinfodaily.com. And basically that's a site for music and entertainment. And then one day we posted the Wedding Ringer video, the preview. Kevin Hart just dropped the trailer. We posted it first. Kevin Hart retweets it and we probably got like 30 something thousand hits for about 5 days. So I was excited. I went to work and I presented that to the owner of the company. The owner of the company was actually a developer. I was like, hey, look, in my spare time, I built this media company. We, we posted this, we're getting views. Would you invest in this company? His response was, look, this is this is cute. I like how you're doing this, but if you're not here at 9 a.m. every day, I'm gonna fire you. And keep in mind what pays your bills. So I didn't really leave corporate role America. Long story short, I was almost kind of pushed out,
Yeah.
where they basically just made the conditions and they kept raising quotas. And then so it became to, I have to take a bet on myself. And then that would lead down about 2 years of a rabbit hole of, building other websites for people, being a part of a startup that would raise capital and was acquired 2 years later, but really did not have any, it wasn't a big liquidity event at all. Just another learning process, learning curve. And then in 2017, so I would say about 3 years of like, kind of figuring it out. And then in 2017, that's when Lenny and I started Stopwatch. Um, and then I would say that the immediate hurdles have been just organization, working together with another, in my case, just one person. So just developing that communication, making sure that we're on the same page, in what the vision of what we're doing. I think that was very difficult in year one and two. But then in year three, I just think the world and life hit us with such a curveball, which was the pandemic, that because we did that, that building foundation, those prior 2.5 years, you know, we just trusted each other. And, I mean, this we could have shut doors March 15th. It
Yeah,
really there were a lot of issues that we had to deal with. We had employees, we had offices, we were thinking about things a lot differently. So yeah, but I think if that trust isn't there with your partner, hard to be creative. And, at the end of the day, we're a creative marketing company. So, how can we work with clients and how can we balance these things if we're not on the same page? And then from there, I just think once we realize that, um, a good brand, a good marketer should share the impact of what they've done and highlight the work that they've already done, or share the benefits or show you firsthand how people feel after interacting with you. I think that took a
yeah,
few, we probably realized that um, in 2021, I think. And then it just goes back to organization again, communication, new
yeah,
goals. So I think it's like a circle that things change,
yeah,
as the years go on.
yeah, for sure. Is there anything you would have done differently? Not a different career path, but in leaving corporate world and starting the different businesses? Is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I have a friend that's about 10 years younger than me, and he was always telling me to build my brand, put out videos, build my brand. And I was hearing that in 2014, and I again, probably realized it in 2020. Um,
Yeah,
so I think just spending more time putting out content, period. And it will evolve over time. But I think that's, the one of that it would have been from my perspective, it would have been nice to go back and see the things that I was working on in 2015, just from a learning perspective. So yeah, I just think, you know, your name is your name, and the best thing that you can do is control that brand. So and over time, you probably just learn
yeah,
from
agreed.
those mistakes. Yeah,
Agreed. I think everybody has to make mistakes to move forward. Like the best people out there, the best business owners, the best companies, they all made mistakes. That's that's the best way to
yep,
learn. You make the mistake,
exactly.
and then you have to power forward through it.
Yeah.
Um, so when you're talking to other people that don't own businesses, what are some of the common misconceptions you hear from them about business owners?
Oh, that we're greedy, in my opinion. I just think like I've never at this point, I think it's just like it's greed, or or maybe just the fear of starting.
Yeah,
Maybe and I'm not gonna say I mean it is difficult. Um, so I think there's just a level of but then I look at like again like the imposter syndrome, where I think a lot of people just put that on themselves, and they never start. um
yeah,
so I think it's a combination of both, those things.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always most common misconception I get is always that we don't work that hard, right? You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, work as little as you want. It's like, oh, that's it's actually the complete opposite.
Complete
So,
opposite,
yeah,
complete opposite.
yeah. So with the two different companies and everything else you have going on, how do you find some type of professional and personal balance? Or is that even something that you're trying to strive for?
Yeah, I think the cliche is like I feel like I'm doing what I love. And you know it's easy. My brain constantly, is working in that capacity. I think it's, for example, when you're talking to someone, um, that you might partner up with, or they might become a customer, or whatnot. There are some people that will just only communicate via email, where I'm the type of person that will send you my phone number, and I think there's just like a very different type of um, approach to it all. And then the other side of it is, in our we're essentially required, right, to work 40 hours a week, right? That's what we're all, that's the bar, right? But if you really like break that down, that's like under 25% of the week, if you really, think about
Right.
it. So there's still, I mean, obviously you're probably sleeping for about 25% of the week. Um, so I just think you have a lot of time in the day, and it's all about, how you balance your time. Um, and I hate throwing out 4-hour work week. I think traction has to apply. There, Zapier, Make, automation. There has to be some type of element before you could probably truly achieve a 4-hour work week. But I think once you have, those type of systems in place that I just mentioned, I think you can do that and you could automate things. And then that way you could just focus on what you love doing, and freeing up your time. It doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
shut something down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So take that one step further. How do you stay motivated and focused on the projects you're trying to complete?
Yeah, it's really the feedback from the people that interact with me, pay me, compensate me, employ me. I think that feedback is the motivation loop. When I don't get good feedback, that's when I know that I need to do something different. It's not exciting anymore. I
Right.
think for me, I think that's the number one thing. I think, and in my life, I think I want to keep that excitement. So, um, yeah, I'm not excited, participating in anything and not being told how it went afterwards. That doesn't really
Right.
excite me. I do need some type of feedback loop
Yeah.
for the hours and the brain energy that I'm going to put. Um, and I just think that creates other things.
Yeah. I think feedback's critical. I think for everybody, whether it's good or whether it's bad, we need to know what everybody thinks. So I agree. You can really drive your business based on feedback. So you're in the tech industry. Tech changes constantly. It's improving constantly. How do you stay ahead of your competition that's out there doing things that are maybe somewhat similar?
Yeah, no, great question. Great question. I think there's a lot of agencies and there's a lot of networking community platforms. So I think that's something that we've always had to deal with, right? Um, but I think the reality is simplicity. If you're, any customer, any client, how can we simplify the end goal of why they are communicating the problem to us? They're communicating problems, they want solutions. So I think the best that we could do from a deliverable, and also from a service standpoint, I think is our competitive advantage. Colab has no software. um, we meet you where you're at, right? I've had countless advice to build software. If I did, I don't think I'm talking to you right now, because the financial burden of keeping software up and running wouldn't have made sense. So then what did I do? I trusted my gut. I trusted the fact that we don't need this right now. We could use tools like a Zapier, like a Make. Um, so I think it's a balance of listening to podcasts that you look up to. So I'll give This Week in Startups a good name drop, because that's podcasts I've been listening to before I even started Stopwatch Creative. And
Yeah.
you know, from there, it's learning, trying things out. I think now in the era of AI, you have Claude, you have Poe. There's someone said on a podcast right now, it's not AI against people, it's people with AI against people.
Yeah.
So I think right now it's your job to learn how to use these tools to make your life, your your partner's life, your client's life, your organization's life, more efficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, just staying curious and keep learning.
Yeah, yeah. I've found that technology has certainly made a lot of what I do easier. For example, we're sitting here talking on Zoom. 5 years ago, we'd be talking in person. So sometimes not
Exactly.
sometimes, but technology always finds a way to make things easier. So
Yeah.
let's say somebody wants to get into doing the same things that you're doing. What do you find the most challenging part of your industry?
Yeah, well, I think you have to be unique. I think you have to find a way to stand out. Um, I think, there's a book called Cumulative Advantage, Mark Schaefer. It's a really good book, but that's just the power of compound uniqueness.
Yeah,
So flat, copycats or whatever, that's the highest form of flattery. I forget, or imitation is the highest form of flattery. So it's keeping that in mind. But I think the only way I think you have to stand out, um, one, and um, you really have to enjoy what you're doing. I think that's what contagious.
yeah,
In marketing, if you come up with an idea and it works, you look like a genius, and then you might get the opportunity to come up with another idea, and then it could flop. But because you're one for one, you're probably going to get another opportunity, right?
right,
It's a creative industry. And I think most brands know that nothing could happen very quickly in marketing. It's typically time. So I like the strategy. I like the uh, the operations of it. But I think in this time, technically, it's probably been never been the best time to start. Just where we're at in terms of how easy it is to build any tech platform. It's not as
yeah,
expensive as it was. Many people are looking for ways to do things more efficient. You know, and there's just a big shift in terms of companies. You know, right now I saw Venture for America just closed, which really just surprised me. But that just shows that and I think the need is still there. So I think if you're a founder, I think it's interesting to look at businesses like that maybe um, you know are are has kind of created opportunity for you if you want to get into whatever that business is. But I think it's pretty. I think it's right now probably as easy as it's ever been to start. Um, and there's just a lot of problems to solve. So
yeah. But where do you see your business in the next 12 to 36 months? Either one of them.
yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah, I think just in a way, doing the same core things that we are already doing. Um, and yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, 2025. Sorry, it's hard the election cycle has been so traumatizing that it's there's a lot my brain hasn't really thought about 2025 yet. But
Yeah,
um yeah, I just think hopefully it's a more calm year. Um and I think for us internally, the more organized we are, we're open to opportunities. So yeah, I think we're going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing, and just trying to just get more control over our time, and
yeah,
and deliver value.
awesome. Become a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, I think you could always be more efficient. You could
I
always be
think
more
so.
efficient.
So, what's the best business advice anybody's ever given you?
Um, Shut up, you have diarrhea of the mouth. Yeah. And the thing about that, like, I don't know if, I mean, yeah, yeah, I grew up in the school of hard knocks, so sometimes it's hard to get, the raw advice. But that, in that context, from the individual it came from, was important because I think there's like, in the sales cycle, if you think about it, you're trying to walk someone through a hallway. And as you're walking someone through a hallway, it's your job to not open up doors. And like the more doors you open up, and if you go inside of them, sometimes you can't get out. You can't.
Right.
So I think that was really the context. It was, they were already ready to exit, but you just kept opening up doors.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was, I think it applies to a lot of different things. It could, um, but yeah, I think you have two ears and one mouth for a reason.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We used to say you talked your way out of that sale. You know,
exactly. I mean, and there's exactly, and depending on, if you're a $2 million, sale, that could be a very big
yeah,
decision if it took you years, months, or weeks to kind of build that relationship. So, um, I think it's just listening to the problems
yeah,
and just being honest if you could solve it.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. So let's say you run into someone who's a couple years into running a business. They're struggling a little bit. They're stressed, frustrated. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I think it depends on context too. I think it's good to just take time off maybe, and maybe you just, working yourself too thin. Some of the best ideas probably come, when you're just walking around and enjoying the day. Or just really, you really identify, why you're frustrated, and address that head on. I don't think delaying problems is going to help. So yeah, I think that's probably the best advice.
I think that's good advice for sure. Um, well, listen, Manny, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down with me for this interview. It was really good talking. You're really good learning more about your organizations. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you again, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah, Manny Larcher on LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. Happy to talk with anybody. Thank you.
great, great. Well, listen, everybody out there watching, I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We'll catch you the next time around. Take care. You've just tuned into another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you found valuable insight to boost your financial success. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Keep pushing forward, and thanks for listening.